Did you have to get that last one in there?
Yeah, you did.
I'm trying to hang out. We're on Google Hangout.
You want to stay in there?
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, guys, we are back. Episode 2, Warfighter Wednesday. You got me, Kawa, who is 2 Alpha to Quit, Instructor Z, and we got Will in here as well. I got a couple things that we want to talk about. What's everyone doing, man? Z, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Tough day. Went to the chiropractor, got my neck broke.
Nice,
and good to talk to you guys. And even though y'all live right down the street, but Kawa's all the way in freaking California.
Where'd he go?
I don't know.
Did we lose him? We lost him. So a couple things we want to talk about, right? We want to talk about the need versus the want. If needing the things for, like Z always preaches, that everyday survival, practicing for that worst case scenario, stuff like that, versus the want, the new Gucci gear, stuff like that. Hey, Calva's back in here. We're going to talk about that. Most likely scenario to use any of that gear and or training, knowledge, weapons, anything like that. And the mindset, being ready. Kawa preaches mindset all the time. So these are a couple of things that we're going to talk about tonight. But one thing that I really want to talk about is Area 51, man. All these dudes think that they're going to storm Area 51, and that plays into that whole most likely scenario on when you're going to use your weapons, your gear, stuff like that. What do you guys think about that?
Well, my 11-year-old son keeps talking to me about it and tactics for storming Area 51. So that tells you who what group it's really caught fire with. My 11-year-old son watching all the YouTube personalities.
Yep. But see, the last I heard, there's 1.6 million people that signed up to go to this thing. And there's another 200,000 people that are part of the group that are just observed. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to this thing. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. But even if it's 500,000, even if it's 100,000 people, they march forward. What's going to happen? People. As far as
Kawa, I think you're getting some mic issues. Do you got a headset you could put on or anything?
Let me see.
Yeah, I'm hearing you twice, like an echo.
Really? Okay. Not sure why that's happening. Let me mute myself so I can interrupt you guys.
I don't know if it's you're too loud or if he's too loud. Getting feedback.
From who, me or Kawa?
Both.
Okay.
Test.
I'll get rid of that, and then we will do this guy right here.
From who, me or Kawa?
Hey, Kawa, you good?
How's that?
Sounds good on mine.
How's that? I mean, I turned down my volume.
Sounds better, I think.
What a rookie, man. What a rookie, this guy. Next time I'll bring a headphone or some earbuds or something.
Yeah, it sounds great on mine.
It's just,
okay. No worries.
There's a delay in there somewhere.
Yeah, Bobby, I think it's coming from you. I think your speaker's too loud.
We can.
Okay, so getting back to that, Kawa, what were you saying now?
Well, I was saying, so I don't know how much you guys heard, but last I heard, 1.6 million people, signed this list or whatever to get on to march on Area 51. But I also heard another group, about 200,000 strong, are going to go to observe. And honestly, I kind of want to be part of that group. I'm curious to see what's going to happen. But I was saying, as far as even if there was 100,000 people that showed up, 10,000 people that showed up, and they all marched together on Area 51, I mean, what's the, what are the scenarios here?
I don't know. I said the same thing. I said that if you literally took the amount of people that signed up to go to Area 51 to storm Area 51. It's possible. If you had 600,000, 800,000 people, you can absolutely do that. You can have your first 4 or 5 lines of defense vehicles, right? And literally, I mean, that's saying that none of these people are armed, for one. But look at what we did, D-Day, right? They were all dug in, bunkers, machine guns, bombs, you know what I mean? Just everything. And we still took that just by sheer volume of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing but what happens when they knock down the fences and, and they get to these big vault doors? What happens at that point? Do they just linger around like a bunch of zombies, or, what do they do? It's hot.
I have no idea.
I've got a great plan for how they could get in there and get what they want. It's a real great, plan, but it's very, very detailed. Got a lot of things in it. If each one of those people that signed up send me $1, just $1 a piece, $6 million, I will give them the plan for how they can get in and infiltrate Area 51 and get out with the aliens.
Get out with the aliens?
Yeah. $1 a piece. $1 a piece.
Well, I think
imagine at 1.6 million people signed up to go to a job fair. The boost in our economy would be amazing.
Absolutely, right? You figure that.
So
100%.
Well, I think if like Kawa said, if they make it to the vault doors, it's still point proven that the U.S. citizen enough rallied together, we can accomplish what we need against the government or any type of base that we deem fitable, especially like the reserve or something like that. So I think point would be proven. Granted, you wouldn't see the super ultra secrets inside of Area 51, but just the fact that the average American citizens got together and then came across point proven to the government saying like, hey, within, and everyone else in America, with enough people, we can, if we ever get into that situation down the road, we can absolutely take control back to ourselves. Not saying the country's in that kind of position right now. I'm just saying in the future, if we ever get to that position, I think that would be definitely something that would go down in history, I imagine.
I'm looking on the line.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the date and time frame for this? Because I
think it's sometime in September.
September 20th is what I heard. And they said something like 3 in the morning.
when the military will have all their nods and they won't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, like from the military aspect, like from their point of view, I know the Air Force has given these people warnings, like don't come. I'm sure everybody's giving them warnings at this point, like don't do it. It's not a good idea. But what kind of military action are they going to take outside of a show of force, outside of tear gas? I mean, what else can they do to stop hundreds of thousands of people if it's like they come?
So that's what we were talking about earlier, right? And that's a good point. What extreme can they go to? For one, I look at that, right? So if you are a threat to national security, which technically that is, right? You are showing that you are forcefully going to infiltrate a classified restricted area, right? Does that show that intent to be hostile? Does it? And if it does, at what point do you say, hey, listen, this is now a threat. I understand it's an American citizen, but now, we've tried, the warnings and everything else. At what point now, what is your top level of escalation for this?
Yeah. I mean, you can't mow down even 1,000 people that are unarmed just because they're marching on a government-owned territory or property. I mean, you can detain as many as you can. I mean, you can apply riot tactics. You can apply riot tactics and have a first line of defense with vehicles and manpower and this and that. But honestly, what can you do to neutralize it without getting physical and people getting seriously hurt?
I don't even know what kind of security features they have around there. I don't even know. I never even looked into it. I don't give a shit about it about Area 51, really, because I'm not one of those
Probably more
people.
than we realize, I imagine.
I mean, they probably, if they got a fence, I mean, if enough people pile against it, it's really probably the crowd that's going to get hurt. They're going to push on each other and trample each other if they do anything crazy like push in. But once they push in, if the doors are locked and they can't get in, then I just watch them and moseying around on the property or the territory. Who gives a damn? What are you going to do? They're going to get themselves hurt.
Yeah. I mean,
Correct.
And I think I know that like Area 51 doesn't have like a fence per se around it. I mean, they do have a perimeter, but they don't have like any obstacles that are actually keeping people out, other than, you know, in the past on Mondays and Tuesdays, you have a SUV pull up and be like, hey, go the other way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they do. So Area 51, I'm sorry for cutting you off, Steve, but Area 51, correct me if I'm wrong, they have posted signs that say if you make it past this point, the use of deadly force is authorized. So does that come into play too?
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. Maybe on, you know, I watched a video where these people that are not part of Area 51 are kind of touching the waters, and they're looking at two peaks of these hills, and they call them Sniper Hill. So they're actually known as Sniper Hill. I don't know if they were taking people out from there if they cross the line, but if they have, then are you really going to use deadly force or use an escalated method of force on all these unarmed people? I mean, that's not a good look.
No, it's not at all.
I'm looking at pictures from above on this place.
Because this is going to be funny to watch. So.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. The memes are going to be fire, dude, after that. Like, no matter what happens, either they go or they don't go, it's going to be crazy on social media. I do know that the guy that originally made that event on Facebook sent a memo to the Department of Defense and said, hey, listen, I'm the one that originated this, but I want to let you know that I have nothing to do with this anymore. I did this as a joke, and it just went, way beyond what I intended it to. He said, I have no part in this anymore. I don't even moderate that page, like nothing. And, so I guess people are taking it pretty serious, but, that all plans into, what is that most likely scenario of what's going to happen? You think that a whole bunch of guys are just going to show up at Area 51? And when they do show up, what do you think is going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's an airfield, so if they got some Ranger buddies, maybe they'll show them how to seize an airfield. It looks like an airfield from above on the images I'm looking at. But it's sad to me because it goes to show. I mean, this is somewhat of a funny idea that's caught fire on the internet. But this is how it goes for any I guess ideology that we have out there, especially with politics. Like, hey, we're showing up here to talk about this, or just to yell about Trump or about racism, or about sexism, or about freedom of speech or gender, whatever. And people don't really look into anything. They just kind of, hey, let's jump on the bandwagon of anything that somebody says because it's caught fire, and they don't have any facts. They have not done any critical thinking. They haven't looked at the source of information, where they're getting it from. They just come in there, and then you see I watch a couple of like Fleckus talks on Instagram. He goes around to these hotbed rallies or whatever, where liberal or conservative, and he interviews people, and he just asks them questions that he knows facts about. And then when he's asking them, they just say like random fallacies that they don't even know what the fuck they're talking about half the time. They're just saying what they heard. You don't know where they heard it from, or where that person got their information that told them, and they just sound ridiculous. They just sound ignorant, and they don't even know why they're there, and they're wasting a bunch of time getting emotional about it when they don't have facts. Now, I understand you can hate Trump all you want, but get all the facts, man. And it's not even about politics. They just say a generic black and white opinions about everything, and that's how the world is nowadays. Well, that's how the United States is nowadays. People just jump on the bandwagon. They don't know shit.
Yeah, because it's way easier to look at a meme on Facebook and take that as a fact and actually doing your research. And then when your research actually proves you wrong, people get butthurt about that. Oh, my outlook or opinion wrong because the actual facts tell me I'm wrong. And then they get more mad, and then they also don't want to do that as well, because it just makes them look stupid. So they just look at their memes and whatever all their Facebook friends are saying and take that to heart, and then that's how their views are born. Because it's easier to do it that way.
I think it's also where a case of it's easier to join a group of people and be united regardless of the cause versus take a stand yourself or kind of go against the grain if you don't truly believe in that. You know what I mean? I mean, you see it in our own community, like you see it on Instagram. You know, you see like a fad happening where whether it's tactics, shooting gear, or whatever, and next thing you know, it catches on like wildfire because people are like, oh, I want to be part of this fad versus knowing that maybe this isn't absolutely 100% right and maybe I should take a stand. But if I do, then you get kind of, you feel like you're going to get attacked. You know what I mean? So it's easier. It's easier. I don't know, man, to be honest. I hope that people don't seriously hurt. I feel like, you know, depending on how serious, you know, our government takes Area 51, how serious they're taking this whole march or whatever, I feel like people might get hurt, man. Like, I feel like there might be people, you know, dying at some point, you know, depending on how close they get. So who knows? I will be tuning in, that's for sure.
100%. So Z, you talk about the need versus the want, right? And that basically goes with anything and everything that you do, you know, with anything, mindset, tactics, that new piece of gear, that new gun, whatever it is, you know. What are your thoughts on that? What do you try to talk about and get across with that need versus the want?
Well, I talk to people, and I think that everybody's got a right to their own opinion, right? If you want to shoot guns because it's fun, or if you want to do competition or whatever, I don't care, whatever you want to do with it. But what I teach is for a certain purpose, and that's to defend yourself, right? So that's my aim. And yeah, I mean, competition type stuff versus tactical type stuff, like somewhere they overlap. Like when it comes to fundamentals, the fundamentals are applied for both, right? But my mindset, and Kawa, to your point, we talk about mindset. My mindset is always, will I be able to use this in the heat of the moment when I'm scared and when it counts to defend myself or others? That's always my end state. And I see guys, they come to classes and they got all this stuff, and many of them say that I've weared all this shit not just to look cool, for the fad purposes, which that's cool too. I understand. I like fashion and I like to look cool as well, but they say their true end state is that I want to be able to defend myself. I want to be capable, right, with these guns, to defend myself against evil or defend my loved ones against evil. And then you start breaking down, all right, well, if you're going to do that, this is what this encompasses. And this is the likely scenarios that you can really even fathom. Even though they're long shots, there are some scenarios that could be realistic. And we talked about that. You and I talked about that. It's not so civil war, really not, I don't think, in the cards so much. Maybe one day, whatever. But we're not fighting the government, really. We'd lose that battle pretty badly. But Carl and I talk about this in our classes, and Carl talks about like a next terror attack that's focused on taking out a lot of people would be like a great place. And I don't want to put the plan out there, but I'm sure they thought of this, or worse, shopping malls at the entrances, and you just start taking people out and people are like sheep. And I'm always like in Puerto Rico and then hurricanes down south in part of the United States, like when shit goes bad and there's catastrophe, usually there's not too many people, especially in the United States, that are at the point where they're totally without everything and they're in need and they have to go get what they need. Usually they take advantage of those moments just to get things they want, like looting stores for shoes or taking people's shit just because they can and because they're just embracing the chaos. And I think that is closer to what's the likely scenario for defending yourself if you're talking about an all-out large scale problem where me and my buddy would put our body armor on and go to work in a civilian, as a civilian. It'll be more like a catastrophe where people truly need shit. Like, hey, I don't have any food. I don't know how to get any of this shit. And you know what? I'm scared and I'm going to go take your shit. And sometimes that means running you over and killing you or your loved ones. And if that's the case, I mean, we already know what they'll do when they just want stuff. When they need stuff, it's going to be a lot worse, and people will take your life to survive and take your shit. So how are you going to keep your shit? That's the way I look at it, and that's more of the scenario that I see that could be more possible for us to use the things that we know from the military and what we train.
Yeah, I agree.
So
I mean, the mindset for this skill set that we are practitioners of, it comes with the mindset. So no one just picks up a tool to use it without having a purpose for using that tool. You know what I mean? We did that when we were kids, but like now that we're adults, we pick up these guns and we use them with a purpose. Now, Z said competition is, one aspect, and you got the tactical side, which is another aspect, but the fundamentals and the foundation are the same, and I get it. I get it for competition. You need certain gear, and there's levels of that gear based on your budget. But in order to be successful in competition, you need that gear. You know what I mean? You need that good range belt. You need that good mag carrier that you can cant at an angle and that open top holster or whatever. But when it comes to tactics, there is so many. It's such a whole different world of scenarios that can happen. It comes down to, great, you can buy all the gear you want, but if you don't have that mindset in the first place. When I talk about mindset, I talk about situational awareness. I talk about understanding your surroundings at all times. I talk about talking to your family about, hey, if somebody kicks the door down in the middle of the day, what are we gonna do? Versus if somebody kicks the door down in the middle of the night, what are we gonna do, right? If we're in a shopping mall and you hear automatic fire, what are we gonna do, right? And those little talks like that, even, your kids might say, oh, Dad, you're silly, or your wife might say you're fucking crazy or whatever, but when the shit goes down, at least everyone's kind of somewhat on the same page. And they're like, oh shit, my dad talked to me about this, or whoever talked to me about this, and everything kind of clicks, and it's a lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle. But with that lifestyle, you also need certain gear. How much gear you get is up to you, right? If you just want to roll around with the appendix carry holster and an extra magazine, and that's where you live, okay, great, man. But if you're the guy that also wants to buy just full kitted out, everything nods, then you have to be real with yourself. Like, where are you really going to use that, right? And Z talked about some of the scenarios where, you want to use it versus where you may have to use it. You know what I mean? And I think that these days, what's great about this country is that we can play military all we want, and no one's going to tell us otherwise. Yeah, we're fighting gun laws here and this and that, and we're fighting to keep our Second Amendment rights. But for the most part, we're free to do what we want. So when people say, hey, I want to buy this plate carrier, I'm like, cool, man, buy the plate carrier. But, understand, like, take a minute and ask yourself, like, what are you really going to use this plate carrier for? And how much practice are you going to put in with this plate carrier? And what are the scenarios you see yourself using this plate carrier? So honestly, man, I don't roll around with a plate carrier in my truck, but I do roll around with a level 3A backpack, from one of these companies. And I do roll around with a pistol and a couple magazines and a first aid kit, and I think I don't stick out like a sore thumb, but at least I'm ready for some very minimal damage control if I had to, but if you want to buy all that kit, man, more power to you. Just put in the time with it. That's all I got to say about that.
At least put it on for an hour while you're at the range and see how sweaty and tired you get and how much you want to quit just that one day. Well, I've seen this, right? I've seen these people do this. They're like, oh shit, the hell with this.
Yeah. And then work your way up to 3 days with very little food and water and see if you still like it.
Man, they're like, screw all this kit, fuck all this ideology.
Yeah, because when it comes to kit, man, people like Z and myself and a lot of military guys, especially infantry guys, rangers, soft guys, like, they know, man, like, we can't wait to take that fucking kit off, right? We can't wait, and then what you see in the civilian aspect, or even, I shouldn't say just civilians, but now you see, like, in the social media community or whatever, you see people just want to put more and more stuff on their kit. It's cool, yeah. If you want to roll for an hour with like 80 pounds on your shoulders, cool, man. And you got every little gadget and doohickey, cool. But like, you roll around for 3 days with that, you're gonna try to think of things to take off your kit, and what are the bare essentials that you can get away with, minus your plates and your water, So
I'm teaching an airsoft class tomorrow. I'm interested to see what all cool stuff these guys got, because they got that lighter stuff that's really like, I'll be like, hey man, I wish I had that weight, bro. Like all that cool shit, but with that airsoft feel, I wear that all day.
Man, I wish I had some 3-pound plates when I was still doing all that cool stuff.
Word.
2-pound helmet.
Bump helmets.
Yeah, bump helmets.
Sorry, mic issues. I had to hop off for a second.
I feel like people, will, whichever side you kind of advocate for, there's always going to be people that get their feelings hurt. There's gonna be like assault dogs on one side that's like, why are these people putting on kit? They don't even need it. They don't even know what the struggle is with kit and this and that. Then you got the other side of the argument that's like, just because I'm a civilian doesn't mean I can't own kit. And,
so if you think about that, right? So, all right. So you talk about, you can own a plate carrier and all that other stuff, which you're right. You can absolutely do that. I mean, I have one that's right there, but unless you're training with it all the time, is it even feasible to own? I mean, just because you could do it. If you right now, if you were, let's say middle of the night, someone kicks in your door, breaks down your house, the first thing you're probably going to grab is either your handgun or rifle, shotgun, whatever it is. But you're not going to be like, oh, hold on, let me get my battle belt or let me get my plate carrier, nothing like that. You're going to try to get to that threat as soon as possible. So, right. I mean, in that situation, with that gear, we use gear, plate carriers, nods, stuff like that. When you are planning to do something that requires that level of, gear, it's not just spur of the moment, like, oh shit, let me get my battle belt. If you're in a vehicle and someone starts shooting or something like that, you're not like, oh shit, let me get out of this vehicle and get my battle belt. You're just like, hey, let me get my gun, let me get to cover, and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I feel like it's more premeditated to where you have a goal in mind. Like Z was saying, going to get supplies or something like that. I think it's way more feasible to be like, okay, let me check my kit. Let me make sure everything's set up for what I'm doing right now. But exactly like what Bobby was saying, if in the middle of the night or even an active shooter situation or something like that, there's no possible way I would ever think, oh, let me rig up real quick. Hold on, stop. Let me check my kit and make sure it's good to go. No, it's exactly what you said. I'm grabbing a firearm and finding, cover or concealment. So,
you gotta be ready for that boogaloo, bro.
But that's the only thing, right? So you get, what? We should run an Area 51 special on the Tactical Edge website, dude. If you guys need stuff for Area 51, we'll, enter code Area 51 and we'll help you out,
The only dudes that are doing good on Area 51 are the dudes bringing taco trucks out there for everybody. Those are the dudes that are going to be making the money.
Yeah, honestly, that's what we should be talking about, is how can we make money off of this Area 51 thing?
Hey, Kawa, you're closer than all of us. You ought to get with somebody with some taco trucks out there for real, man.
Yeah, you're right there, dude.
I'll go out there and sell some stuff. Yeah. I'll be making this t-shirts right now, like, I stormed Area 51.
Maybe I'll be like Disneyland and sell water bottles for like $10 a pop.
Bam.
Yeah,
because 100%. People ain't gonna be preparing. They're gonna get out there and be like, it sounded great but I didn't think about like, how am I gonna sustain
in the desert?
Only the people that'll do well is those people that go to festivals all the time. They'll be out there with like tents and freaking water, like like filtration kits and crap.
Yeah.
Some acid.
Man, that's a good idea. I need to look into that.
Yeah, I was reading a thing. They'll be like, you know what? All the only thing Area 51 is going to be is people are going to hang out for a while, maybe do a little protesting, and then they're going to decide to do it every year. And then in like 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a DJ, and then all of a sudden, it's just going to turn into a desert music festival.
People be dressed up like aliens.
Yeah,
probably
that's
right.
It's evolving too. That's awesome.
Hey, real quick, we got a comment from Ben Williamson. and this goes back to that mindset and that, you know, the need versus want. He says, how seriously would you guys take someone who only practices one portion of the warrior mindset but neglects the other? For example, trains with firearm but doesn't train physically.
Oh, yes. Let's get into that.
Oh,
Okay.
you know, Kawa been saying shit. He been showing pictures of him in the gym.
Yeah, he called me out. Did you see that? I was like, oh man, I got to get to the range now.
Can I start on that, please? Can I begin?
Absolutely.
And then I know Z has some stuff to say too. Okay, so I talk about this a lot.
I know.
I talk about this a lot. Okay. So I talk about this a lot, right? And I like to, you know, a lot of people kind of, sometimes they like the take I have on it, sometimes they don't. But to me, I'm a believer of holding each other accountable. You know what I mean? So just like I was when I was in the military, in the Marine Corps infantry, you know, just like I was when I was on the team and that stuff, you know, we held each other accountable. And that's the mindset. And that's kind of the way I've kind of applied my life in the civilian world, is in this community. I think that because you know, I have a bit of a following that, and people kind of listen to me, I think I can influence people for the positive. And I say that when you're on the range or wherever and you are training for this 1%, you know, and I call it 1%, you know, where you have to draw that gun and take shots. I think that's like the 1% scenario, right?
Correct.
You know, how much time are you actually spending for that 99%, which is everything from the foundation, which is mindset, situational awareness, you know, being prepared for scenarios, whether it's on foot, whether it's in a vehicle. How much time are you spending, you know, focusing on fitness, you know, whether it's stamina, strength, or whatever. You know, how much time are you spending on just talking to people? You know, I'd rather verbally de-escalate something before it even gets to like a physical, you know, a physical point in the altercation. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, I will not necessarily be the bitch in the scenario, but I will humbly say, you look, man, I'm sorry, I apologize, let me buy you a beer, whatever it is, just so I can stay out of a fight. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to get stabbed. For what? And for what? You know, and like, how much time are we even talking or spending on just being able to talk to people and like de-escalate? You know, we get in arguments with our wives and girlfriends and whoever all the time. There's your perfect opportunity to practice right there. De-escalate your argument with your girlfriend, with your wife. You know what I mean? And from there, maybe you can de-escalate some bum coming up to you in the street asking you for $1, thinking in his mind that if one more dude says no to me, I'm stabbing somebody. And you could be that dude, that last dude that's saying no to you. He just comes at you with a knife or whatever. But there's more to it than just guns, man. You know, you could be bullseye with your gun all day, but if you can't pick up a dude that's passed out, that's your weight, not even heavier than you. If you can't pick him up and take him to safety, drag him to safety, take him out of a burning car, burning building, what good are you? You know what I mean? And that's why, you know, and sometimes I don't take the best approach when I address these things, but I truly believe in that, you know, and I know Z, doing what he does, has a lot to say on it too.
Well, I'll give you Bobby and Will, what do y'all got to say about that before I jump in there? I don't want to take up all the.
You're setting me up right now, aren't you? You're setting me up for something. No, I feel the same way, right? So,
wrong. I'm just kidding.
No, but for real, you know, I think that you should be able to maintain a certain level of physical ability, right? Regardless of what it is. You know, being able to be in a fight. If you're going to, you know, there should be, you know, broad aspect for that, right? So you should maintain a certain level of physical ability, right? You should be able to maintain some kind of medical knowledge as far as like, you know, tourniquet application and all, because all that stuff's perishable, right? So if you don't practice that stuff a lot, you know, when you get into a situation, you might not be as quickly, you know, as applying a tourniquet as you once were, or whatever the case may be. But I also think that you have to be able to be as effective as possible in any situation that you encounter, whether that's having the right supplies, the physical ability, you know, the intestinal fortitude, like any of that stuff, right? So like Kawa said, it's a mindset. So if you're going to practice one area of that mindset, you have to practice everything that comes along with it, right? You carry a gun. Do you carry a tourniquet? If you don't, why don't you? You know, and you know, so I agree with that 100%. Do we get lazy? Yes, absolutely, because being lazy requires zero effort to maintain, right? And the human anatomy and or whatever, you know, the mindset is to just do the laziest thing, right? You know, it's not always oh, hey, you know what, I'm going to work and then barely have any time off, right? It's that, oh man, you know, I need a break. Nobody ever says, man, I need to work. I need to work. You know what I mean? Unless you're that driven, you know, motivated person that constantly works all the time, but then doesn't get any rest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Will.
Sorry. I think the physical ability is, as well as proficiency with a firearm and a good mental state is extremely important, especially if you're just giving, you know, an example. If you're with a team of guys and say we're post-apocalyptic or something crazy like that, and you could be a super high-speed stud with an AR or a pistol or anything like that, but if you can't run to the next piece of cover, or you can't keep up with your buddies, or you can't do basic stuff like that, you can't carry your dude to the next spot, you are no longer an asset to that team. You're a liability, because now everyone has to babysit you. Everyone has to either look and make sure you're keeping up with them running or rucking or doing anything like that. And especially if you fall out, someone's got to double back and go get you. So to be able to run and you know, have the stamina and stuff like that to keep up with the momentum of an active scenario, I think is equally important to you know, to win the scenario that you're in. I cannot shoot very good, but you know, I can run fast or do something like that. It'll still help me out in the situation. So I think physical as well as mental capabilities, more or less than just shooting, is extremely important in any kind of situation that you basically need with a firearm.
I agree with you. I think people, you know, they're short-sighted. They're ignorant because, I mean, what you don't know, right? And I've been that person before. But they're very short-sighted. You know, like the person that buys the gun, the perceived power of a firearm, it cultivates the thought process that I get this for the worst case scenario, and that's the end all be all. That's the perceived power of it. But you got some people that are more short-minded or short-sighted than others, because you get people that's got the gun, they don't know how to, well, how are you going to implement the use of that tool or weapon when it's time? Have you even thought about where you're storing it, or how you're grabbing it out? Is it going to be fast, or are you going to be digging around in something? So they haven't even thought that far. And then much less, all right, when somebody's trying to shoot at you, heart rate up, you're going to be having your breathing is going to be harder, all that physiological shit that goes along with being scared. And then also running like a motherfucker, because you're like, whoa, there's somebody shooting, and you're going to move fast whether you like it or not. And you're going to be behind the power curve the less out of shape or less conditioned you are. So they're so short-sighted, they can't even get the gun out. And now we're looking at all the way here, like if you really had to fight. Bottom line is being physically capable is going to help you in life in general, right? Health-wise, if there is something I have to do, whether I like firearms or not, if I had to run over here and grab my daughter and lift her up because she slipped and was falling into the whatever, or this lady I had to grab her out of traffic, like, I don't have to be an advocate of firearms and self-defense to think like that. And anything like that, stressful situation, chaotic situation, people see blood, people see someone hurt, you're at a rally for Area 51 and somebody gets hurt real bad, right? Stress factor goes up, and you still got to have that mindset and the physical capability to implement that mindset. So what people, they're just so fucking short-sighted, man. They just don't know. That's why it's our duty as we train, especially us guys that I consider us well-rounded. I know Will trains a little bit of this and that, and he's got his experiences. Bobby, the same thing. Kawa, I know with the Green Beret mindset, we know we have to be well-rounded, right? And that's why we don't I'm not sitting here just, yeah, I want to be real good at shooting. I hate it when people shoot better than me, and it makes me want to work harder. But I know that I also got to be real good at physically controlling someone. I also got to be in pretty good shape. I also got to go practice the breathing part of the fundamentals. I also need to practice processing in my brain when things happen, right? That problem solving that we did the other day, Bobby. I got to work those different systems. I got to do all that, and I got to think about what am I liable? What's a liability? Like I can't just go giving everybody medical attention. I got to think about those certain circumstances because I am an armed guard and I train armed guards, but I don't advise them to use a first aid kit on just anybody because you're liable for them if you give them. Maybe I'll give them a tourniquet, but you never know what people might do nowadays. You put a tourniquet on me, they end up getting their arm cut off, and now they're suing you for everything you got because, hey, you put a fucking tourniquet on me. I don't give a shit if it saved my life or not. You know, so you got to think about that stuff. And then not to mention that you have to have the fucking mindset just to flip the switch and be violent in the face of violence. Some people have never even been angry enough to be violent. And I don't know many people like that, but I know they are out there. So they can't fathom, they can't fathom like, or they can't even entertain the idea of how somebody could be violent towards them for no apparent reason. They don't understand that's out of their control. So if somebody becomes violent towards you, it doesn't matter what the situation is, doesn't matter the likelihood. Are you going to be able to flip the switch and do what you need to do?
We see that a lot in law enforcement, right? So we talked about that before, where they just, you know, they are so used to training to that standard of, you know, the verbal commands, you know, yelling verbal commands, and when it goes further than that, you know, just if you look at, you know, some of the most recent law enforcement videos where, you know, that like what we talked about last week with the two officers, the guy with the knife, he just couldn't go to that next level. It was almost too late. And then finally he went to that level. So, you know, I agree 100% with what you're saying with that.
Yeah. So yeah, like those guys, well, and they're well trained, but they're well trained for that common scenario. Like the good cops, they're very good at verbally engaging people, you know, showing up their presence, the communication, that show of force, right? Trying to control the situation. But what happens when it doesn't happen logically like you think it should? Logically, this should happen. We don't count on logic though. We just deal with what's in front of us. So you might not be thinking logically. So if I do this and everything should go away, yeah, I've got 4 of us and we have the authority. This badge says so. I have a gun and you're supposed to follow the law. But if you don't, what do I do? And not all of them know what to do when it comes to somebody actually trying to hurt them, like say running at you with a knife. And thank God that police officer's all right, but it could have went a whole different way. You know, Go ahead.
I think if people kind of looked at their life, living their life, kind of like how, you know, like it's their job. You know, like when we go to work, you know, I'll start with Green Berets, right? So Green Berets, we're known as the jack of all trades. We're not known as shooters. We're not known as door kickers. We're not known as infantry guys. We're not known as mortarmen. We're not known as like demo guys, you know, but we can do all of it fairly well, right? Now we have little elements in all these units that have specialties or whatever, but for a regular ODA, we're a jack of all trades. We take everything that we're supposed to do on a battlefield and we get just good enough at it where we can maintain a level of proficiency where we don't fail, right? Where success is the outcome. And, you know, if people kind of look at their job, look at their lifestyles as they do like their jobs, like when you go to work, you're not just good at one little thing, you have to be good at several things throughout your day to make it all work, make it all come together, right? And that's kind of how I look at when these people that in our community that train for either self-defense or just because they're enthusiasts and they want to be better at it for whatever reason. If you look at it like, okay, it's not, you know, just like Z said, just like we've all been saying, fighting is not all about taking that gun out and taking shots. There's a lot of stuff that happens before that. And there's different mentalities and mindsets that come with that, you know, and you have to be practitioners of all of it. That's why I preach fitness. That's why I preach mindset. I mean, a mindset I always preach regardless of what I talk, but that's why I preach situational awareness. That's why I preach about talking to your families, your girlfriends, about having a plan regardless of where you're at or where you're going. In case the shit hits the fan, what are we gonna do? Okay, well, the best thing we can do is, I don't know, go in the store, or hit the gas on the pedal and get out of there. Whatever it is, at least you had to talk about it. But I feel like in our community, at least on social media, I feel like people are so wrapped up in the presentation. You know what I mean? Because that's all that people see. Like, I see, like, there's people on Instagram that I've never met, so I have a certain perception of these people, right? But I think that there are certain people on Instagram that want to give a certain perception of themselves, whether it's an elevated perception, whether they're fast, can't miss, freaking this and that, or whatever. They're just okay with that perception. They're in their little comfort zone, and it's a false sense of security, and it's an incomplete mindset. And, for those people, when the shit hits the fan and that threat is very real in their face and they have a blink of an eye to react, it's all going to come together, or I should say, no, it's not all going to come together. There's nothing to come together, really, is what I'm trying to say. It's going to fall apart in their face very quickly, So, the way I say, when I preach about fitness and this and that, I do it in a way where I'm kind of like calling people out. I say, hey, calling out all these people, but it's not for me. It's not me being a dick. It's me putting pressure on you to go out and do something, man. Like, people would rather spend 2 hours watching Netflix on their couch than 30 minutes in the gym, just doing a quick little cardio session. That's stuff like that blows my mind. I make time for Netflix. I make time for Netflix with my kids, but I also put time in the gym. I also put time on the range. I also put time doing other stuff. There's got to be a balance. Otherwise, the real outcome is that you've set yourself up for a failure, completely, because that gun is not going to save you, right? So.
Yeah, and I feel like going off of what you said, being a jack of all trades, it definitely gives you the ability to rely on less people for any type of support that you need. If Green Berets are dropped off in middle of bumfuck nowhere with no one in immediate support, so you have to be able to do a little bit of everything for your mission or whatever you're doing to be able to come into play. If you're there for a very specific job, and you only are trained in a very specific field, or you only have a certain type of knowledge, you don't necessarily, I feel like you're a little bit limited to your role as part of the team, as if you knew a little bit of everything, because now you have to rely on other people to help you out in certain aspects that are definitely involved in what you're doing, but you're just not able to do them because you don't have that type of training or whatever. So I think being a little bit good at a lot of things is definitely better than being a super stud because on a shot timer or something like that. Like, sure, I can draw my pistol super fast, but do I know anything to go along with the fight? Like, you might be proficient at this one thing, but now you're relying on either other people or you're just lacking in that field completely to finish a task or finish a mission or anything like that.
But one thing to add to that, William, I think most of us have that mindset because of our experiences, and we understand brotherhood, camaraderie. We understand doing things for those around us more so than most. And I'm not putting down any civilians. I'm just saying that's cultivated in the environment or the culture that we had in the military. Like, even when I wasn't really happy about the type of missions I was doing, I still trained hard because I knew the guys around me counted on me and I wanted to count on them. So we really understand that mindset. So what I want to say by saying that is, I think that how can I be an asset to those around me? Not necessarily how can I just, I want to look good. Yeah, I want to feel good. Yeah, I want to be, I want people to perceive me as being cool. Whatever that helps out business wise, that helps out socially and reputation wise, whatever. Everybody's got that. But I really, and Carl talks about that. Carl from Tactical Rifleman, he talks about, hey, I'm going to make sure my kids and wife are safe if something happens, but they know, I've already told them, I'm running toward the sound of gunfire to help any way I can. And does that mean that I'm going to pull my gun and kill them? Not necessarily. Depends on the context and what my, the strategy I have, but maybe I'm just running to help somebody. Maybe I'm just running to keep eyes on until I can see my opportunity to help somebody. But we're going to run and be an asset to our community, to our industry, to the people around us for damn sure. So if not, I'm just paperweight, man. I want to be an asset. The more things I know, the more things the tools and skills that I have and here's the key, that I can implement in the heat of the moment or under fear, the better I can help those around me. And that could be life-saving. That could be me just helping somebody fix their car. That can be me talking to somebody down because they're fucking freaking out right now and ready to choke their kid or wife. And they're just freaking going crazy. Whatever it is, I want to be an asset to that situation. It makes me feel good. Yeah. Is there an agenda on my part? Yeah. When we do good stuff, we feel good about ourselves. But I think we truly care about those around us, and especially those that are out there working hard, doing what they can with what they have, like we do. So I want to be an asset. Doesn't have to do with firearms, but I will help you. I just know I have an experience level that tells me that I know that people are capable of doing very bad things. And that's part of me being an asset, is I got to have those skills to answer to that. What do you got, Bobby?
We got a couple of questions really quick. Ben says, I ruck 3.5 miles with a 45-pound pack while watching you guys, multitasking at its finest. That's awesome, man. That goes right back to what Kawa was saying, taking that physical ability to the next level, being proficient. And then Jimmy D says, is there a challenge to adjust your be ready mindset when you're back in the U.S. with family?
Yeah, I think what he's asking, if I hear it right, is there a challenge? Like, don't be hyper vigilant or super paranoid, like what people experience from coming overseas. I think there is a challenge there, but the biggest challenge that I've seen, of course, if you experience some shit and you come back and you're looking at every little thing on the side of the road because you got blown up on a convoy or whatever, that's one level of it. But the biggest challenge for across the board for most soldiers, I would say, especially doing what I did and what Kawa did, and a 9 GWAT type deployments for us, coming back and things not being so simple and black and white overseas. And people think I'm crazy for saying this sometimes. They're like, you saying it's better overseas? Not. I'm saying that it was black and white. It was a lot easier to make decisions because I had to be up at a certain time. I knew what I had to do. It was very clear what I needed to do for whatever I was doing. I had to work out at a certain time. I had to eat at a certain time. And then besides that, everything else was pretty easy. There wasn't a lot of surrounding other things that I had to worry my mind about. When you come home, things aren't so black and white. There's this and that. There's dealing with emotions of family members. There's dealing with these problems that may not seem so big a deal to you, but it is a big deal in the life of that person. So you can't be like, well, don't fucking worry about that. Nobody's dying. That's a challenge because you're used to things being at a higher separation. If nobody's dying and I'm not sucking about to die, and I'm not super miserable, then everything's fine. Everything else is just bonus, right? And that's a big challenge coming back, and us having our perspectives and being able to still see things through other people's eyes, our kids' eyes, and how they see things, because they don't have the same experiences as us, and they don't have that same information that we have to tell them that there's other perspectives out there yet. And that's a challenge to identify with them when we see things on a larger scale. If that makes sense to anybody.
Yeah, I think there's a very big difference in being paranoid, is thinking every single situation that you're in is a negative situation, and being able to correctly analyze a situation, saying, is this negative or is this okay? I think there's a huge difference between that. I feel like it might be, granted, I've never been deployed, so I couldn't give you 100% certainty answer, but I feel like just going off of that, I just feel like there's like a big difference between thinking every single situation you're in is negative and something negative is about to happen, instead of thinking and processing, hey, could this be negative, or is this okay? So I think maybe that's what Jimmy was talking about, to adjust it from, because overseas, every type of situation you're in, most likely, I imagine, turns out in a negative way. So, but adjusting it to the civilian side, or the U.S. side, to properly analyze and go through the steps in your mind, saying, hey, I know overseas it probably might be negative, but here we're in a different situation. Let me sit down and think about this, and really for 2 seconds and say, hey, is this negative or is this positive? So,
What do you got, Kawa?
So, I mean, I agree with Z and Will on that, and I'll add to that actually. The way I look at it is, when I was overseas, Z brought up structure and everything, which is something I didn't even think about, to be honest, and that's a great point. But what I was going to say was, when I was overseas, I had at least 11 other dudes watching my back, that were either as good as me or better. And so I didn't have to be as paranoid. It was actually, and that's what that's what Z was saying about, is it easier overseas? Well, it kind of is easier overseas, because you're working with professionals that are either equal or better than you, watching your back. So if you drop the ball here and there, someone's going to pick up that slack. The way it is back home, I feel like it's harder back home, because I'm no longer with those dudes, right? Now I'm with my family who's not trained, who's not looking for the same stuff I'm looking at. They're not trained observers. They don't know. They've never been taken out of their comfort zone. They've never really been put in a really scary position. And I don't know how they're going to react, man. Like, I sit there and I talk about it all the time with my kids, but when the shit hits the fan, I don't know how they're going to react. Are they going to step up? Is it really natural? Or are they going to freak out and close up? But they're not even looking for the same stuff I'm looking for. So when I'm home, I feel like it's a little bit harder, because now I have to do the work of everybody I did, everybody I was overseas with. I'm just one man protecting my family, looking for threat indicators, looking for abnormalities, looking for stuff that sticks out, that's not the norm. And it becomes a little exhausting, but you know what, man? That's your job. And I'm not just doing it for my family, I'm doing it really for everybody, wherever I'm at, I'm doing it for everybody, but it's exhausting, man. So that's what Z was kind of meaning by deployments are easier, but back home it's tough. But you got to do what you got to do. And honestly, I will say this: the more you do it, the easier it becomes, just like anything else.
Good deal. We got a few minutes left here. You guys got anything else, or?
Man, if we would have been on the ball. We hit the popular Area 51 topic. We should have had filters like old faces. If we were just all old people on here talking, we should have did that. We should have had them.
I haven't done that yet.
I messed around and showed my kids, but I didn't put anything online.
That's a nap, right? Oh, is that a nap?
Yeah. That's a
yeah, of course, Russia is linked to it, and they're stealing all of our identities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Russia, pick one. China, any of those.
There's a 70-year-old Z that just opened up an Instagram account somewhere.
Credit cards.
Yeah.
Z.
His name is Lee.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. We're going to do this again next Wednesday. It'll be all of us back on here again. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Z's got a class coming up on the 28th. It's a pistol class, tune-up class. If you guys want any information, check out Tactical Edge website for that. Kawa's running a 2 Alpha apprenticeship. If you guys are not familiar with the 2 Alpha apprenticeship, you guys can hop on Kawa's Instagram, which is at 2 Alpha to Quit. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there. He's doing one out here in Kentucky. And then where's your other one, Kawa? Where's that at?
Ohio. And that starts in October. Yeah.
Area 51.
Yeah, okay. Ohio. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Area 51 is the actual location. No, it's Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and Central City, Kentucky. So I know they're kind of close vicinity to each other, but Kentucky was a hit last year. Ohio has a lot of shooters, and that's just, Indiana, Michigan, all those in Illinois, they're all right there. So It's a 1-year program for those of you that don't know, but just hit me up, man. I won't waste time here. Just hit me up on my Instagram or email me, and I'll give you all the info.
Okay. Good deal. All right, guys. Well, we're going to get out of here. Hope you guys have a good week, and we'll see you guys back here on Wednesday.
Awesome. Good talk.